Welcome back, YouTube. PPS here. Pass the Prop Wednesday edition. It's our first Wednesday show of the season, and we're coming at you guys, obviously, with another round of some free plays here and some DFS fantasy picks for week 2. Joined, as always, by my guy, Stu, Monotone Football. How we doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's very good to have week 1 officially in the books. I ended week 1 at a nice plus 1.39 unit. So nothing ungodly sexy, but obviously starting off the year in the green was the number one priority. Because at the end of the day, you have no clue what's coming week 1, right? So many different things can happen. We guess all season long, but we really have no clue what's actually going on the field. Now we get to my favorite part of the season where it's kind of us against the books. We get to make our guesses on what's going to happen. They make their guesses on what's going to happen. And there's a lot of money to be made in the middle of that right here. So I'm super pumped to be talking Thursday Night Football. We got a nice weekend slate as well. A lot of good stuff on the horizon. I'm super excited.
Yeah, dude, it should be a good game. But before we get into that, obviously got 10 of you guys in here. We appreciate you guys popping in here in the first 2 minutes. Let's recap Monday Night Football. Damn, dude, man. How'd you feel when you first saw Rodgers and all that shit going down? I was actually working, and we had it airplaying on a TV on the side. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I hear somebody in the corner like, oh, shit. I'm like, oh, God, what could have happened? I'm like, did Gabe Davis catch an 80-yard catch there? I'm like, and then that ends up coming up. What were your initial thoughts on that? And obviously with the news now.
Yeah, it definitely kind of killed the vibe on what was supposed to be a great game. It still was a great game in the end, obviously, but you want Aaron Rodgers. We thought about it all season long. What's going to happen? Rodgers finally quarterback. Finally, no Zach Wilson, right, who was historically bad last year. This is the future, right? And then after, 4 plays, it just suddenly ends right there. Definitely tough, obviously, for the Jets. I'm a little bit, if I was a Jets fan, I'd be a little bit sad that they've already been so firm in naming Wilson the starter. I know you kind of have to do that, but I mean, I'd already have Andy Dalton in the building. I'd already be on the phone for Taylor Heineke, all these kind of backup level guys. Some people are getting real aggressive with like Matthew Stafford's and stuff. That's not going to happen unless maybe the Rams lose 4 straight games and stuff starts, after a week 1 win against a division rival, you think you're getting Matthew Stafford. I don't think that's happening. So obviously I hope the Jets kind of look around, because if you're a fantasy owner, if you've got Garrett Wilson on your team right now, if you've got Breece Hall on your team right now, you're probably feeling pretty shitty, right? This is suddenly going to be a bottom 10 offense for the foreseeable future. The great news, if you're a Jets fan, is you do have a top 5 defense on the other side, right? They obviously showed how good they were against Allen in prime time there. Even obviously an emotional loss, it's very easy to just quit. Not that, I expect these guys to, but it's hard to be at 100% when stuff like that happens. And to see them kind of rally their team to lead their team, it definitely shows just how strong that defense is.
Yeah, and it shows, man, like Josh Allen, man, he was just that was worse than when Favre was at the end of his career, bro. Like, he was just chucking that stuff. And I mean, a couple of them were really unwarranted, right? That Gabe Davis throw should have been to the sideline. You can't underthrow that pass, right? Yeah. You have to beat them deep there. Obviously, the double coverage throw in the Stephon Diggs. I was up 44 points. I had Allen. They had James Cook, Dalvin Cook, and Diggs. I ended up needing that return for a touchdown to have him not have any chance to have Dalvin Cook get 2 points. I ended up winning by 1.8. So that one was a lot sweatier. It gave me a 90% chance before the game. So really tough. But for us, luckily we were able to come around with a profitable show. So Kincaid, I think, ended up with 4?
Yep, he had at least 4 catches. I don't remember how many he ended up with right there, but it was a first half catch. And I even saw some murmurings in my mentions a little bit after no catches in the first quarter. And I'm like, guys, he's out there blocking. This is great to see Kincaid out there actively on every snap, even without a catch. I was fired up after that first quarter. So to see that end up going so well was definitely great. Love to get a rookie week 1.
Yeah, I had a few rumblings on mine too. I was having a couple guys say, isn't the Jets secondary good? I'm like, yeah, they are. That is fine, right? And he almost had a second 20-yard catch in the same game, right? He only had 2 catches. He ended up with 42 yards, 21-yard average. That was his average, right? 26-yarder and a 15-yarder in there as well. So it's we'll never see that line again, or at least I don't think we should. But I was really happy to get it at that price. We ended up beating it in the first quarter there. All you had to do is beat him on one route. Ends up, I'm like, run. At least don't fall at a 20, dude, because that would be so demoralizing. But he ended up coming through. And again, I truly don't think we should ever see it at that price again.
Yeah, it's one that like I said on the show, I don't even remember it being under 22.5 ever. It's like the lowest I can remember. So to see this off the bat was surprising. And I agree with you. I don't think we're going to see it again. 23.5 minimum coming out this week against the Raiders.
Beautiful. And then the half unit one, I think, did fall, right? It did not cash.
Yes. Unfortunately, this was the L of the night. He ended at 6 even, went in with 4 at halftime. Obviously, man, I mean, I hate to be that guy because, I didn't tweet this or anything like that, but each one of those interception plays, there's a wide open pocket because all those plays he's scrambling out and throwing them roughly at the line of scrimmage, right? That's what led to those kind of rough releases right there. It's just like, take the 4 yards, man. You're going against a backup quarterback. You don't need to make hero plays, but at the end of the day, I still felt great about this play. One of those where it doesn't quite work out, but yeah, still profitable show. Just the bummer, the half unit one killed us at the end right here.
Yeah, no, and definitely thought he was going to take a couple more runs there. I would have liked it, so he just doesn't just force the ball to Diggs and just keep me fighting in fantasy. So we are blessed with another great football game for Thursday Night Football. So we'll get right into it. 20 of you guys in here in the first 6 minutes. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, any questions, fantasy stuff we'll be talking about here in a little bit. We want to get into Thursday Night Football and talk about our plays, and then obviously talking about the game as a whole here. So just looking at the overall spot, I'm seeing 49 as the total on DK. I'm seeing 49.5 on FanDuel, 6.5. The line has just moved to 6.5, so we're on here at the right time. Seeing a little movement to the Vikings at 6.5 point dogs here. Stu, they're traveling to Philly, obviously a spot where we've seen them play before, right? They played last year, and Philly put it on them. So is that something you're expecting here? We just saw the second half for the Eagles. They played like absolute dog against New England. They almost got the backdoor cover on the Patriots side, which was wild. What are your thoughts here on this one? Do you think the spread is warranted? Obviously, a really tough loss for the Vikings against Tampa in week 1. So one team coming off a win, one off a loss. Both of them I thought were a little bit closer than they should be.
Yeah, I think the Vikings side is going to get a little bit overhated, I think, in the media in general, as what we saw from game 1. They did outgain the Bucs on a yards per play basis throughout the whole game, right? They were on paper, by most metrics, the better team in that matchup. Unfortunately, if you didn't know, you can't win games in the National Football League with a -3 turnover differential, especially when 2 of those interceptions came in the red zone, right? You just can't do that, right? Because on paper, it looks better, right? You gain all those yards, but you're not actually converting. So I guess the good news, if you're a Vikings fan, is, hey, it's not going to be that bad every week. You're likely not going to have that -3 turnover differential. The problem with the Vikings, though, is that defense is bad. And we all knew that defense was going to be bad coming into this year. And the Bucs weren't even really able to fully take advantage of it. And they still won, right? They won with Baker Mayfield throwing 3-yard passes just down the field, check down after check down after check down. And it won. So what happens when now you face an absolutely lethal offense with Jalen Hurts, at the helm? That makes me a little bit worried for the Vikings. I think we get a better offensive showing. I think we get a higher scoring game. But I'm not so sure that this Vikings team is actually going to end up looking any better. I'm not sure if they can even cover the 7, just because at the end of the day, we saw how dominant the Eagles were last year in offense, especially against bad teams. And it really feels like the Bucs didn't even give us like a kind of like example of how bad it really could be, with Baker Mayfield only throwing for 195 yards, or 173 or whatever it was. So I do think the Eagles put up a lot of points in this one. I think the Vikings should be able to stick with them on offense. It's just, can we keep those turnovers down against this tough defense?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to talk about this Eagles front line, dude. Like, the Eagles allowed 2.1 yards per carry to Stevenson last week, right? Madison bottled up last week against the Niners. They got destroyed on the front 7 last week to the Bucs, right? And to be honest, I know you brought up the turnover stuff. The Buccaneers had a wide open touchdown, dude. They missed early in that game. Should have been up the whole game, right? That should have been it shouldn't even been that close, right? The Bucs missed their opportunities just because they're not that good. And that's at home too, right? Yep. So that's the tough part for me. Now you're going into a wild area out there in Philly, man. They're gonna be crazy out there. But also I really like to see that Eagles defense just shut down, the main thing that they're trying to do, right? Which is establish Stevenson, establish that run game. And then we saw Mac Jones just absolutely go berserk on this secondary. I know CJ Gardner-Johnson was a huge pickup there for the Lions in the offseason. I know that was a big talking point, was how is this secondary going to hold up? I think we're going to obviously talk about that in a little bit on our picks. But just something I wanted to bring up, man, is that's tough, right? That front seven was really good against the Patriots in week 1. How do we see that happening here against the Vikings, who got torched by a defense that I don't think the front seven's even on the same level as the Eagles front seven?
Yeah, I agree with you. The trenches battle is something we're going to touch on in our analysis throughout both of these picks, but I completely agree. I think they're outmatched. It's going to force Cousins into a lot of uncomfortable situations. And as we know, Cousins on prime time in uncomfortable situations is not a recipe for success. So for me, I completely agree with you. And I think that does lead to a lot of these checkdowns, these short passes, get Justin Jefferson a quick 5-yard slant, get Hawkinson the ball fast, get Madison the ball in checkdowns. They were even using like their fullback. CJ Ham had 2 receptions last week as well. I would not be surprised to see a bunch of checkdowns, a bunch of short A-dot throws, because I agree with you. He's very outmatched. The one good thing they got going, though, is Bradbury is looking like he's trending towards out, right? I saw the concussion stuff, everything I'm reading saying he's likely not going to play. That is tough. That's kind of what this defense is built on. And the foundation of their defense is those really, really good corners, right? They make up for a lot of slack. Slay on the outside had the pick 6 that arguably won them the game looking back on it, right? At first, it looked like the Eagles were just going to dominate them. But without that pick 6 right there, the Patriots were very, very live to win that game with that comeback. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt with now some lesser cornerback play out there, and Slay having to, I assume he's going to shadow Jefferson in this matchup. So that leaves obviously guys like Addison, guys like Osborne as very interesting targets now.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love to say that I think Slay's going to do really well here. It's just you're going to have somebody over the top on Jefferson. Dude is just that good, man. They were double teaming him last week, and they still found a way to give him the ball. Still got 150 yards. So just, I mean, you can channel, but obviously, Jay Jetta is going to be the number one fantasy ranked every single week. Doesn't matter if he's playing triple coverage. He's still going to be up there. He's that good, right? So obviously, still lock him into everything that you're doing. Don't be afraid to play him in the DFS streets tomorrow. But I want to get to this one point before we head to our picks here. Stu, there's 4 sides to this game, right? We got Vikings spread, Eagles spread, and we got the total at 49. If you had to pick one, which one are you, I don't even want to say most confident in, but the one that you're leaning towards the most? If you had to, gun to your head, you have to make a pick on one of those 4. Where are we going?
Yeah, this is rare for me, especially with the total this high, but I'll actually say over on the total, right? I think if there's 2 common things, like I said, I really don't think we've even seen the levels to which this Vikings defense is going to be exposed, right? I think week 2, one of the biggest things is you want to have your preseason takes at the top of your mind, because you want to remember what you thought before what you saw and kind of combine those things together. For me, I really think there's a level of just bad, of like bottom tier NFL defense, pretty much what they did last year, that we didn't even see yet. So we're not thinking quite there yet. I think this Eagles team obviously went against an underrated Patriots defense last week as well, that people weren't talking about being a top 10 or a top 5 unit, which they probably are this season. So now that we take those factors away and we get this Eagles offense unleashed against a really bad defense, now combine that with the fact that we know Kirk Cousins can work in garbage time better than most anyone, right? This team throws a shit ton. And now we combine that with no Bradbury in there, a slightly weaker secondary. I think this is a recipe for an over game.
Yeah, Thursday nights ones, those totals always scare me. I don't know which way I want to go on them, right? They're always like 50-50 on those. I would like it to be 1 point, half point lower. If they give me a 48.5, love that, right? Because that 49 obviously that's a number that we could get to pretty easily. I think I gotta go with this. If this moves to a 6, I think I'm gonna take it. The Eagles there. I think the Eagles are significantly better. You're getting them at home. You just had a dome game for Cousins, and this defense got torched. What are you going to do in Philly? It's going to be even louder than that Viking stadium is going to be, right? I know Nicholas already talking about Goddard time. They won that game, and Goddard didn't even get a catch, dude. And that dude's probably, in my opinion, at least last year, he was a top 5 fantasy tight end, fantasy-wise. So, You didn't even give him one shot, right? So it's like if they were able to do that with just two receivers, obviously expect him to be heavily involved in this one, especially because I'm playing them this week and they're going to pop off because that's usually what happens when I play a team. But they did that without even featuring their pretty good tight end there. So I think I would have to lean to the Eagles spread. But if it does go down that half point, I would take it at 48.5. It's just I don't see it going down. I don't see it going down. I think the over is the way to be betting it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you watched the show last week, I pretty much every total you asked me about, I said under as well. Like I'm normally not, for these higher scoring games. I agree with you. I would say I was kind of the opposite way. If it gets to like 7.5, that would just be so crazy that I think I'd have to take the Vikings just covered by a touchdown. I don't think are they 3.5 or 4 points worse than the Patriots? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think so. I guess maybe the Patriots are proving that with how good that defense is. But yeah, interesting spread for sure. I'm very curious. I don't know if there's going to be a super heavy public side. I think this one's going to be kind of even back and forth as the number moves.
Yeah, shout out Mac Jones too. Mac Jones didn't look terrible, right? Which if you would say he's a bottom 10 tight end or bottom 10 quarterback, I don't think anybody would disagree with you. So for him to go out there, throw 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, right, put up a pretty nice fantasy game. I think he was like the third highest fantasy quarterback behind Tua and Jordan Love. Who would have thought? Jordan Love, Mac Jones in that optimal, baby. That's what you're looking for. Everybody's out there throwing Lamar Jackson as the highest, and he's the highest price, gets you like 6. And then you look at, Mac Jones just dropped a 20 piece on us and absolutely cooks the slate. Shout out to my boy Baker Mayfield. I did play him in DFS. He did help me cash. So shout out Baker. You're the boy. You're the boy for sure. So let's take a look at the chat. Again, guys, you guys can drop them in there. We got 35 of you guys in there. If you got questions, concerns, DFS, Thursday Night Football, anything, drop them in there. Got Steve, first guy in there. Hope you are doing well. Appreciate you as always joining us. HX619, we got talking about some baseball. I will come back to that. I want to make sure we get to our picks here in a timely fashion so you guys can get those right away, and then we'll come back to it for sure. If you got any baseball stuff, I obviously looked there already. Greg Joseph, 2 PATs and 14 of his last 18. Can you bet on? I know
you can.
I usually would bet on points. I don't know if I bet on extra points. I don't think I bet on that ever.
Yeah, I think it's a last year edition. I think that out of that last year, they expanded the special teams part. So now you can do kicking points total, and you can do extra points and field goals separately as well.
So plus money, Bob, I see you bringing that in there. You will be coming up on our first time section that we're going to be talking about. I will make sure I save that one as the question that we will be talking about that, because we actually – year 3, we're the grizzled vets now, right? You see a lot of people with new shows. We're those gray guys sitting in the back. We've been doing this. We've been doing this for 3 years now. So we got to make some stuff fresh. So make sure you're dropping stuff like that. We'll be showing you guys a new segment we just literally came up with that I think is going to be probably the most popular. It's going to be better than our dog pick section. I actually really like this section. So plus money, Bob, I am not ignoring your comment. I promise. I even got a plus money play for you because I knew you were going to be here. So let's get to our picks, and I will save that for our next section, which will be the first portion when we get to Sunday stuff. So, Stu, take us away with your pick. Let me retype this because, wow, this is bad. This was really bad. I don't know if it was not good. There we go. Better.
Okay, we're going Alexander Mattison under 64.5 rush yards. Combine that with Devonta Smith, 4 receptions. That's minus 130 on MGM and on DraftKings right now. That's the place, unfortunately, the only place where you can actually play these alt unders, which is something that I've been really interested in over these last couple of years. Mattison definitely jumps out as the guy that I want to be targeting this week, right? When we look at him, he's a little bit of a harder leg for this play, right? But his start to the season was not great. 11 carries for 34 yards. When you look at it, the Minnesota Vikings ran the ball less than any other team in the NFL. And you're thinking, oh, well, that's just week 1. I'm sure that's not really something that's sustainable. You're wrong. It was the same last year. They were bottom 5 all year long, especially in neutral, game spreads and gameplay, right? They were bottom 5 all year long in rush rate. This was never a team with this current offensive philosophy that's wanted to run the ball heavily. Even if you're ahead, I'm sure if you're a Vikings fan, you remember this last year. I was looking at some of the tape from the end of the year. They threw the ball so much all the time. Like, it didn't matter. Ahead, behind, in the middle, it really didn't matter. And I like that we've seen that carry over immediately, especially when you have a guy in Alexander Mattison who's not like urging you to give him the ball, right? When you have an awesome running back that you love feeding the ball, that becomes a lot easier. But for me, Mattison is not someone that you're looking to feature in this backfield. When you look at his stats over the last 2 years via Next Gen Stats from Amazon, the web provider for the NFL right now, I love this website. It has all the kind of weird stats. Rush yards over expected is becoming one of the most popular there is, right? Over the last 2 seasons, minus 72 and minus 42 rush yards expected over the course of the whole season, which arguably means Mattison was a net negative to them, despite maybe some of his efficiency stats looking okay on paper. When obviously at Next Gen Stats looked at the alignment, they looked at the data, all that stuff, it was saying that he was not hitting the holes he was supposed to be. So for me, the talent argument is there, right? And now we look at opportunity, because guess what? This line has gotten a lot better. Obviously, last year, the Georgia defensive line was good, but it was getting better and better. Not Georgia. That wasn't even a joke. I was getting ready to talk about the Georgia boys. But the Eagles defensive line was, 20th against the rush for the first half of the season, and then a borderline top 10 unit for the second half of the season. Now we got those Georgia boys down there fighting in the paint. You add Davis, obviously. You add Carter, 2 defensive tackles that are going to be in there in the middle. And then I just rewatched their first game. What happened to Fletcher Cox? Who gave this guy steroids in the offseason? He's like 42 years old. And then they're absolutely destroying up the middle. To me, he looked better in that game than he did in most of his games last year as well. So I love that strong middle of the defensive line that this Eagles team is deploying out there. It's obviously going to look even better. You're going to see even more pass attempts now with the Bradbury news, a little bit of a weaker secondary, a little bit of a weaker linebacker core. I think it all sets up for Alexander Mattison to be in the 40 to 45 rush yards range in this one. I don't think he's going to have a super high volume game. I think he's going to have to break a big one, and I just don't see that happening. As for Devonta Smith, this is obviously the easy leg right here, right? 4 receptions, easily cashed this in the first game of the season. When you look at it, when you look back to last year, he obviously had that 0 reception game to start the season. Despite that, he still went over 4 receptions in 14 of 17 games last year, including 9 straight to end the year. When you want to look at their differences between him and a guy like AJ Brown, it's pretty simple. When you look at yards per route run, targets per route run, one guy spikes versus zone coverage, one guy spikes versus man coverage. Devonta Smith is their zone beater, and AJ Brown is their man beater, right? And when we look at what this Vikings defense deployed in week 1, they deployed the most zone defense in the league. What did he have? 25% target share against zone last year. I love Devonta Smith. This 4 receptions is like a first half number right here. I love that. It's an easy pair for Madison, who I'm looking to fade this week. And I think minus 130 is a way better price than you should be getting on this kind of combination.
I love it. And that Madison one incorporates with mine too as well, because I think he's going to be very, very meaningful in the passing game. 4 targets in week 1. I love that you talked about the ADOT on a lot of these guys. And let me just look at the average of receptions for these guys, right? We got Jefferson at 17, obviously had a 42-yard catch, right? Addison's at 15. He had a 39-yard catch. Let's go to everybody else, huh? Let's go to everybody else. We got Madison, 3 catches for 10 yards. CJ Ham, 2 for 7. Osborne, 3 for 30, right? They're not getting down the field, especially in this game. I think it's going to be dump-off city. I also want to talk about last week's game, right? Kirk Cousins had 11 completions in the second half, right? They had the ball for a total of 11 minutes. They didn't even have the ball, right? Tampa Bay just milked the clock out. They had an 8-minute drive and a 7-minute drive. They were off the field. And he still absolutely crushed this number, because when I look at Kirk Cousins and I look at how he does in garbage time, he always cooks in garbage time. He didn't even get a chance in garbage time here because they just held the damn ball because their defense was so bad, right? Do I think that's a problem here? Yes. But I also think that the ability to make big plays on the Eagles side is a lot better than Tampa side, right? We barely even saw those deep balls, right? So we could see a one-play score a lot more often from the Eagles, which means that ball goes right back to Cousins. Another thing, I think Kirk Cousins we saw him get picked off in that last game. He could throw 3 picks. I don't give a crap. If they're losing, I want him to keep throwing. That's why I love betting Jameis Winston. Dude would throw a pick 6, get the ball back, and just go again. That's why I love these guys that are just a little bit more careless with it. I think this is a great spot for Cousins. I think that, again, I know you've talked about Hawkinson on Twitter. I saw that already. Think that his ADOT's going to be, again, continually being at the bottom. 6.8 was that last week. That is obviously abysmal, right? But you look at last year, 184 targets for Jefferson. You saw last week, even in double teams, they were running 1-yard balls to him, and he still gets 10 yards, right? It's just that's how good he is. They force feed him. If they double, we saw Addison beat man coverage last week to be able to get all the way out there, which was awesome. Seeing him make an explosive play, get that out of the way. Osborne is very capable across the middle as well. He did a good job last week of finding the openings across the middle. I know he only had 3 catches, but the CJ Ham and Alexander Madison portion of this is really where I love this play, and I can't even imagine why it's plus money, because they were getting – Kirk Cousins was about to get smoked, and all he did was just flip it over, and it's a 2-yard pass. Yeah. Hey, it's the same. It's worth the same as a 50-yard bomb that's a perfect spiral right in the breadbasket. Same thing. Same thing. Counts for the same. Plus money is wild. MGM is where that one's carrying there. It's minus 102, I think, on FanDuel. Either one, I absolutely love this spot, and I think this is a smash spot here, especially in a lot of those games last year where it was one-score games. We were right there. He was competing them, and I think he's going to have 30. If he could alt line it up, I'd probably do it there.
Yeah, no, I really like this play. I obviously like when our spots kind of align, because I think it kind of reinforces the same kind of general game script we're both looking at with the running game struggling. How do you supplement the running game struggling? You get those short ADOT passes going. To be honest, my play would have been Madison under rush yards and 2+ receptions if that was available, but there's no Madison receiving or receptions props available right now. So we're exactly on the same page. The check down is going to be a huge deal right here. I thought a guy like Ty Chandler would be a little bit more involved, as he was their pass catching back in preseason and kind of profiled as that guy a little bit more. Him was the surprise for me, obviously the fullback, but more teams are using the fullback now. So we'll take those, 2-3 free receptions along with Madison, hopefully grabbing 3-4 as well right there. Like you mentioned, I talk about Hawkinson already. I see Gerardo right here. Hawkinson, a mega whale, max nuke lock this week. I can't disagree with you. I think he's in an amazing setup. You mentioned the 6.8 ADOT, and that's with him actually running some downfield routes. I think he had like a 20-something yard catch as well. You just got to remember the tight end is doing what the quarterback needs him to do, and that's going to be the safety blanket. That's going to be those short receptions, because just like we talked about with Josh Allen on the Monday show, you don't have time for these long developing plays to develop when someone's right in your face. So you're going to have to hit, like you said, JJ over on the corner for 4 yards real quick. You're going to have to hit Hawkinson over the middle for a couple yards. I think these completions are definitely going to add up. I love the play. 100% tail on this one.
Yeah, can't believe they gave us plus money. Honestly, I thought it'd be maybe if it's at 24.5, like minus 130, I thought that's where it would probably be at. I think Kirk Cousins takes over for Tom Brady as the guy when they're losing. You don't even look. You don't even look at the running back to hand it off. It's why are we even doing play action? You might as well just save your time and just get your ass in the shotgun, because we know you're not running that ball, right? So just I think he's going to take over Mr. Tom Brady's section of completions every single time, because I don't think that their run blocking is going to be good enough to compete with a lot of these teams. And might as well supplement it with the short passing game as your running game, like the Buccaneers did last year. So you guys know that Brady completion was literally my mega whale max nuke cocklock. That was mine last year. Every week was the Brady completions. Thank you, Gerardo, for giving me that. I might be using that a little more often on here, because I don't think I've heard that one with 9 different adjectives in there. So I really do like the spot, and I think that for plus money, we definitely could be in a worse spot. So you got anything else from this game, or do you want to head down into some fantasy DFS work here that we got for week 2 Sunday?
Yeah, a couple quick hitters in this one. I see a lot of people are now going to be hyped about Jordan Addison, rightfully so. I'm going to probably start him in fantasy this week. What I will say, though, is if you like Addison, for me, I would consider playing his alt lines, go up a little bit rather than the traditional stake right here. We do got to remember he was kind of serving as more of a big play kind of guy in that first game. And it's important to note that he was coming off the field in 2 wide receiver sets. I know that's the biggest story of the week is Christian Kirk coming off the field and Zay Jones staying on. That was the same thing here. So in reality, KJ Osborne played 90% of snaps last week, while Addison was in that lesser, part-time player range, which isn't to say Addison isn't going to kill. Extremely talented. I've got him in all my fantasy teams for a reason. I just will put out a little bit of a warning right there that he still is coming off the field a decent amount. So don't be necessarily surprised when you look out there in the first quarter and on the first third down of the play game, it's freaking KJ Osborne on the outside instead. Just a little bit of a warning.
Yeah, no, good looks there for sure. And I'm going to give you a mark right here, 30-45. This is the time where we're heading on to week 2 Sunday, right? Now we're heading over to that DFS fantasy picks here. That's what we're going to be talking about. Heads up, hit that like button, first off. Second, we're probably going to do that DFS contest for DK again for the Listeners League here. I will have that link for you. I'm sorry I fucked up. I should have had it ready before we got here, but I didn't. I'll have it for Friday. It'll be in the description for Friday. Don't worry. You guys that means you got to be here Friday. Click that link and you'll be in we might just do a $5 league, maybe winner take all, top 2, whatever it is. But just a fun, small one, obviously, for you guys that pay attention, watch the show. See if you can beat us, right? See, we're going to give you some of the guys we do like in fantasy this week. So if you guys use them on us, that'd be just cruel. So don't do that, right? So our normal Friday, right? We do our dog picks. We do our favorite game. That's not what we're doing here, right? We're doing just our fantasy stuff and DFS work. So what I do want to talk about, and I think we mentioned this last year, was our high end and our low end guys that we want to talk about for the week. And then obviously this is the new section we were going to talk about a little bit here. And it's going to be, I think everybody has one, right? Everybody has one each week where you're just like going back and forth. I know, did you ever watch the league, Stu?
I haven't. I should though.
Oh my God. You can't even be a football fan, dude. If you didn't, you have to switch your name, dude. Your name has to be Monotone Ball if you haven't watched the league. Because, oh my God, dude. It's literally about fantasy football. So I will give you kind of the lowdown of this funny joke that is coming from it is in the show, a guy and his wife, the wife is in the league with him, and he keeps asking his wife, because the wife is better at fantasy football, hey, who should I start this week? Who should I start this week? And then he goes online and watches a show, and he looks at it, and they're ranked right next to each other, calls into the show, says, hey, who should I start? I have them ranked right next to each other. I can't differentiate. And so what they call them, he's like, this guy's ahead of him. He's called a rankings bitch. So that's what they call guys who just literally look at like the bottom of the ESPN ticker and where they rank them. That's what they call them here. We're not going to do that. We're going to give you what we got on here. And so we're going to have it as our fantasy conundrum of the week. We're going to have one. Everybody does. I have one this week. I know Stu does. And that's where we're going to end up putting Mr. Plus Money Bob is going to be the first guy we're going to use for this. So we're going to start us off with fantasy conundrum of the week. Plus Money Bob looking like he's got his, starting with Jordan Addison over Dotson this week. Which one are you leaning to, Stu? I know you're the guy to talk to for the Commanders.
Yeah, this one is pretty easy for me. It might not be pretty easy for a lot of people. I'm going Addison. Even with what I just said about coming off the field, I see a way better path to upside in that matchup. For me, anytime you're going against the Broncos defense and even the Broncos offense with how slow they are on that side of the ball as well, it really does kill that path to upside. So for me, you're once again kind of depending on Dotson to score a touchdown, which is really the deal with him against a tough Broncos defense, with Sam Howell showing off that rushing ability, Brian Robinson being a good red zone back as well. Even with Addison's suspect usage, I still think he's going to have those big play opportunities, and I think they're going to be playing from behind all game. So for me, I'm going to be going Jordan Addison in that one.
Yeah, I think probably 90% of that second half is going to be in 3 wide receiver sets, so I don't even think you're going to have to be worried too much. Exactly. So that's also something, hey, don't worry about it in the first half, right? Hey, they got us in the first half. We're coming back in the second half. That's how it goes. Same thing. I definitely think I would lean Addison in this one. I also would probably lean with Kirk in that situation, being able to kind of maneuver through there. No shots at Howell, but I would definitely probably think Kirk is a little bit better. I would assume you agree, Stu?
I would agree.
I know that hurt you to say, but Stu, I guess it's up to you now. What is your fantasy conundrum this week?
Okay, well, I got a lot of conundrums because my team sucks, but I will use, I'll just limit it to one, and we're going to go into my flex spot. It's a guy we just talked about. Jordan Addison is one of my options, who I played in week 1. Christian Watson, who I want to hear your take on, is now looking like he's going to be coming off the IR and playing in week 2. And then since it's the flex, I can also go to a running back like Gus Edwards. I don't think that's where I'm going to go personally, but I will throw that in as an option. I could, or Antonio Gibson, but fuck Antonio Gibson. He's dead to me right now. So he's not even going up on the graphic. Yeah. So I'm very curious.
I agree at the fuck Antonio Gibson. Dude, I don't know how. I know Watson will play, right? He probably will play. At least that's all what the beat writers are saying around here. And we just saw how many targets go to Jaden Reed, right? We just saw how many targets were fed to Romeo Doubs there, right? So that's the tough part is like he has the ability there. Like he's the de facto one, right? But dude, I hate playing against the Falcons because they're just gonna run the damn clock. The Packers play so slow, they're gonna run the damn clock, right? If the Falcons don't stop Jones and Dillon, I think you might see Jordan Love throw the ball 20 times in this game. He could, right? That's the scary part in this one. I think I would lean Addison as well in this one. At least I know the script's there. I know the plays are going to be there. I know the quarterback play is going to be there, right? And I don't trust any Baltimore running backs, man. I never can, dude. Justice Hill takes 2 tutties last week. Disgusting. Lamar is going to take the touchdowns on the goal line. I know Edwards is probably the most popular pickup in fantasy this week, but I think I have to go Addison. The total is there, right? I mean, the Packers total is 40. It's a 40 total, right? And that's disgusting in a dome. I think that's one that looks like a Brewer game, man. It's like watching paint dry. Good football, good baseball, but it's not what I want to watch, and it's not what's going to give us huge plays. Maybe he gets one of those 60-yard touchdowns like he's able to do. But I think Addison's just as able to do that. And obviously, Jay Jetta is getting the double team there. If anybody's getting the double team, it's him. It ain't going to be somebody else. It's Watson getting the double. So, personally, I'm going to be leaning with Addison as well, I think.
Yeah, that's much. I think he's currently slotted in as my pick right now. It's just tough. I have to decide by tomorrow night, right? I don't have time to wait on the injury reports for Watson. I don't have time to see how he's feeling Sunday morning. I got to make that call on Thursday. So I think it's looking like a round of Jordan Addison so far.
Pretty much. I guess we'll get to mine. And mine has a little bit, you got to bear with me on this one. So mine is going to be Joe Burrow or Geno. Right, I know at the first looks, you're like, oh, you got to play Burrow, right? But let's just look at my situation here. In this fantasy league, I have Burrow, Geno as my quarterbacks, but I also have DK Metcalf as my flex because I just went heavy receiver. The rest of my team is not great, but DK as my flex, and I have Amon-Ra in the same game on that offensive side in the dome, that total, right? And then I have Burrow, nobody else from that game. Right, so I know I'm almost talking myself into playing Geno because then I have just a full game stack. But where would you go here? You got Burrow or Geno. Obviously, Burrow's facing off against the Ravens, who killed the Texans. But I mean, that probably knew that was going to happen. Geno in the dome against Detroit.
Yeah, this is hard because I'm in the same spot where I immediately want to go Burrow. But when you do think about it a little bit more, like all the data does kind of skew towards these guys that missed all of offseason, not just preseason, right? But training camp as well. They missed all that time. Normally, historically, start the season very slow. And we saw that immediately in week 1 right there. And now we have a guy like Geno Smith, who I think the Lions defense isn't quite the matchup they were last year, but they're close, right? They added some pieces. Obviously, they had to get better. But obviously, the Chiefs wide receivers were wide open last week. They just weren't actually converting. So For me, oh God, the problem is with what you're saying. The game stacking thing is so all or nothing, and in reality, that works for DFS well. But you don't really want to be all or nothing in your fantasy league. You know what I mean? Unless you're really committed to loving that game. And for me, I do like that game, but Gino didn't show me enough last week. Where if Gino showed out and looked like the same guy as last year, I probably would have chosen Gino. But considering the fact that he didn't, and the Burrow game is so high stakes, there's going to be so much made of it after last week. The pressure's clearly on them. I think I still would have to just start Burrow and kind of suck it up no matter how it goes, you know?
Yeah, it's just I look at the 6-point spread as a dog for Gino. Burrow's 4-point favorites. How can you give them 4-point favorites and a 46.5 total in this game? That's a whole different story. We'll talk about that on Friday because that's where we talk spreads. That's just weird, right? Why is there a 47-point total in a game where Lamar Jackson's probably running up the middle every single play? And we just saw the Bengals score 3. How is that 46.5? How are they 4-point favorites? Blah, 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 whatever. It's tough, right? It's one that I didn't think I would ever have to think about because I drafted Burrow high enough. But this would be that spot where I think Gino actually competes for my starting spot here, which is tough. So, plus money Bob bringing up a way to get some plus money from our Thursday night picks. Madison 64.5, Kirk 25, completions for plus 160 on MGM. Love that. And bringing up a good point in Burrow's preseason, right? I mean, last week was his first game. Obviously, really shit conditions out there as well. But yeah, dude, I that's what I'm saying. You guys know I've been on Geno Island, man. I've been on Geno Island for a while, man. We've been hanging out there, and everybody's trying to come join me. I kick them off because they ain't been there since the beginning, since they've been with us. And GOAT Geno, baby, it stays there forever. I mean, I know I said GOAT Gabe Davis last week. But, hey, Gino originated it on the show here. So we were there when no one else wanted to be there because it was a gross place to be, along with Kevin Knox on that double-double, baby. Just bring that back. Shout out, go Gino. You might – I'm going to be 50-50 up until lock. I have to wait till Sunday, too. I wish one of them played Thursday so I could just get out of the way. Not only stressing, you know?
Yeah. The final thing I'll say is if the guy you're going against is like super stacked, right? He has like an awesome team and you have to have that upside week, then maybe I would be a little bit more encouraged by Gino, right? If I'm going against like a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes with some studs, then I would maybe feel a little bit more inclined. Or if you go against one of these Thursday guys and they have an awesome game, then you might want to shoot for the upside of Gino. But for me, it's still probably Burrow.
Yeah, they got Goddard. That's really it for Thursday. But they have Pittsburgh's defense and Deshaun Watson. That's how they're starting it. So I'm like, so they're just going to kill each other. Like, that's perfect. So ETN, Jalen Waddle, Diggs, right? It's okay in a 10-person, but I mean, I'm rolling Burrow, Lamb, Amon-Ra, Bijan, Najee Harris, which is don't even want to talk about him. DK, Evan Ingram, right? So it's like my team's loaded, but we played like shit week 1 on. So Joe Burrow's two fucking points, Joe Burrow. Get your head out of your ass. Might just get benched because I'm pissed at you. All right. DFS time. Again, guys, I know I forgot to make the link. Don't hate me. I'll have it here Friday. Maybe even get it done earlier and put it in the comment section of this one. 30 of you guys in here. Thank you so much for continuing to tune in with us. Hit that like button while you're still here. And let's get to it. We're going to start with our low-end guys. I know Stu might make half you guys leave. I think we might end up with 10 people in here after Stu brings up who he's bringing up here. But I'll let you start us.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney is going to be a staple in my DFS lineups this week. And I know that is an extremely ugly thing to say. But at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? We're likely going to be getting a chance at arguably the number 1 wide receiver on the team, especially if Travis Kelce doesn't play, right? If Travis Kelce doesn't suit up, then we're looking at the number 1 option on a team in a great shootout environment, right? In a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a defense that I'm not super high on. We have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league going face-to-face. And we got a guy that nobody is going to play. Like, people just aren't. If you watch that last game, which we all did, it was the first game of the season. You're looking at Toney and you're just going, there's no way I can click on that name. Like, I just can't. The casual audience, especially if you're in some of these cash games, not GPPs. If you're in the GPPs, then there will be guys like me who love the contrarian stuff. But if you're in your cash games, you're with your buddies, he's going to be like 0% owned in a lot of these smaller contests. And I just think that's not right. I mean, obviously, we got two guys at the same price right here who I think are both very interesting options and both have a lot of upside. But when I look at a game environment as awesome as this, when I look at how wide open Kadarius Toney was on all those plays, it gives me a little bit of confidence. I understand the drops were there, and at a certain point, I think that is a bit of a mental thing as well. When you have two drops already, and then you suddenly, starts to hit you a little bit later in the game as well. But I love that he was open so much. I love the game script right here. I love that nobody else is going to play him. It just seems like such a clear path to upside for me on a guy that is going to be extremely hated for the rest of the season, really, no matter what he does. He was already hated because of his Twitter stuff, just going on there and dunking on, and he still was doing it too. He's still the same guy, but I do have some faith. I loved his red zone usage, both at the end of last year and from what we've seen so far. We know how creative this Andy Reid offense is in the red zone. We know he can do a ton of different stuff, those end around kind of plays, those jet sweeps. We can get him involved in a lot of different ways right here. We can get that confidence back up. Look at a guy like Sky Moore. Sky Moore wasn't even earning targets. Are you going to tell me he wasn't even earning? You weren't even getting open in a game where everyone else was to earn those targets. You weren't even doing that, right? So a guy like Toney is the path to upside for me. The drops are bad. I know you guys all hate this. I'm sure everyone's like, stop talking. Let PPS talk about JSN. But for me, he's going to be in a lot of my DFS lineups this week.
Dude, those are how you win, though. These are the guys that win you the games, right? JSN, I think I'm just going to be using because I really like Geno stacks in those ones, and that's disgusting because if I play them in fantasy and in DFS and I lose my money and my week, we could have a TV gone probably, like my fist through it. So what I like, though, is Jason had a 10-yard catch, which means he obviously had two other catches that resulted in only 3 yards. He got 5 targets. But what I like was the first half was pretty optimistic for the Seattle Seahawks. He was 13 for 16, over 100 passing rating for Geno. Second half, obviously, stuff fell apart, right? Turnovers, long sustained drives for the Rams. But obviously, he had 5 targets. The thing is with Geno, he didn't throw the damn ball. He threw it 26 times, right? So he had almost a quarter of it, right? And that's what I'm saying. Same thing. He had the same amount of targets as DK Metcalf. Obviously, DK made the big play, made the touchdown, running phenomenal routes here, right? But what is Detroit going to do, right? They're going to probably lean their best guy towards DK. Obviously, DK can beat anybody. He can beat anybody one-on-one. It's not even close. But I think JSN's the guy that here. I'm taking a shot on him at 4,600 over Tyler Lockett, who's coming off of a possible concussion for $1,500 more. How can I spend almost $2K more on a guy who, well, like I said, had a head injury and had less targets than JSN and less yards? It was not as involved. So even if Lockett's there, JSN after the catch is a wizard, right? I want the guy to have the ball in his hands. And I think this is a great spot, obviously. Shout out Kenneth Walker for losing one of my bets and having 55 yards in the first half. So shout out you, Kenneth, for only having 8 yards in the second half and losing my over 66.5 rushing on bet.
Mm-hmm. And there's one hidden angle in this that I will guarantee you that no other analyst is going to talk about in this game. I guarantee you're not going to hear this point for the rest of the week. And it depends on one guy. It's Emmanuel Mosley for me, the cornerback that they brought in from the San Francisco 49ers. He didn't play in week 1. If he suits up in week 2, that's a big deal. Go back and watch I'm a big I'm a big fan of his game in general, is what I was going to say. But if you look at his DK Metcalf tape specifically, he absolutely dominated that matchup over the course of multiple seasons, right? There's a reason that DK did not produce well against the 49ers, and he was that reason, right? So now he's over here on the Lions. We don't know if he's going to play this week. Not 100% sure, still in the injury report. If he does play, that is one of those angles that no one's ever going to talk about, but it matters. It does matter, right? When you get a guy with that familiar matchup on the outside, that is going to funnel more of these targets over the middle to a guy like JSN. I like this play no matter what. He's very cheap for what he is. Obviously a key cog in this very explosive offense right here. And I'm still not a believer in the Lions offense in general, or defense in general. So I think this play definitely has a lot of potential.
Please, everyone in this chat, please bully Stu. He has not watched the league. I have watched it 6 times, all the way through 6 times. Please, if you see Stu post a pic, bully him in the comment section. Dude, how have you not seen the league? You just use a reference, and he's gonna be like, "What? What's that mean?" And it's just going at him. I want to call him Taco, bro. For all you want to do, call him Taco. Call him that. He won't even know what that means, and it's not even a chirp because Taco's one of the best guys in the league. But just so he doesn't know, right? Make him have to watch it so he can understand our lingo here. Because I'm as surprised as all of you guys because, like I said, 6 times I've watched that all the way through. It is a must-watch show. Stu, make sure you get on that because it's even Steve's coming in here. The old reliable first comment is coming in here and making sure you understand how good a show that is.
The final thing I'll say about it, too, even funnier, I've actually seen one of the comedians in the show, Steve Renazizi. I've seen him live, too, as well. So I saw one of the guys. That's his only credit in life. I saw him do stand-up. He was pretty good there, so maybe – who knows? I'll have to check it out. I've heard this for a while, but I've never seen it before. So maybe this is the year.
Is he? Oh, I got to think of who that is. Is he the guy who plays? Who's he play in the show? I
don't know. I haven't seen the show. You have?
I know. I don't know who that is. Steve Azazes. How do you say it?
Renazizi. Kevin.
Oh, I love Kevin. Kevin's a man.
Yeah, you go watch it stand up. It's good. He's a funny guy. But we'll get off.
Kevin's the guy whose wife is better at fantasy than he is.
So really?
Yeah, that's the guy I was referencing. I just didn't know that's who it was. All right, you guys, we're on to the high end, guys. Let's get to it. Stu's going to make you spend more money than me, unfortunately.
Yeah, and if you're still here, we appreciate it. We'll streamline this a little next week. We'll be a little quicker, right? We normally, hopefully, are 30, 35. Sorry this has gone so long, but hey, hopefully it means you learned a lot of stuff. So I'm going Josh Allen. I'm going expensive. I'm going to the top of the quarterback board over there. I mentioned that obviously the Chiefs game is going to gain a lot of ownership. That's going to be one of the most popular games of the week. No doubt about it. For me, I like this Raiders versus Bills game. I think it has a lot of potential where we see the classic bounce back after the bad primetime game. I know it's on a short week here, but I kind of still had a lot of the things I thought about the Bills confirmed before the season. I don't believe in your running game. Obviously, Cook did look good on the small bursts, but I think it's kind of clear that Cook's role is going to be to carry the ball 12 times a game. I think that's very clear. You're not going to ask him to carry him 15, 16. He'll get his good 12 runs. Sometimes that'll be for 38. Sometimes it'll be for 65. I think that's what we can pencil him into in a lot of these cases. And I think Josh Allen's going to take over a little bit more. We saw he was a little bit, hesitant to run, but he was clearly not hesitant to bomb the ball down 70 yards down the field. And I think you can actually do that against this Raiders defense. Well, you can't really against that Jets defense. I also do like the Josh Jacobs bring back on the other side. It's the ultimate I failed you week 1, but these are 2 of the most talented players in the league. Bounce back week 2, right? Clearly, Josh Jacobs is a good running back. Clearly, Josh Allen is a good quarterback. It was a rough week 1, both in tough matchups. I think this is a very expensive stack. I think it's going to scare almost everyone away from it. And I think you can plug in guys like Jacoby Myers if he's healthy. If he's not healthy, then you're going to have some real cheap options open up suddenly beyond that, whether it's a tight end like Austin Hooper or you want to go Hunter Renfrow, which I will not be doing. He played like 3 snaps. I don't know why. Bring back Hunter Renfrow. Guy was catching 4.5 receptions for us every week 2 years ago. And now he's off. He's banished. I don't know why we do that, but maybe he gets back out there, maybe not. But I do think that's a sneaky upside game.
I think they benched him because of how bad Clemson looked week 1, right? I think that's got to be the reason, right? All right, I'm going to be rolling with Travis Etienne here. What I really liked was I loved the receiving game, right? 5 targets, 5 receptions. Bigsby had 1 target, right? He was barely in there for any of those downs that really mattered in the third down, big third down plays, right? I know everybody's going to look at Bigsby's goal line touchdown, right? 7 carries for 13 yards, right? Like that is the game is still a little quick on him, right? And that you see that a lot, right? And I know we talk about this. Bigsby honestly wasn't even that good in college. That's what I'm saying. He wasn't. And I'm going to go on my limb and say that because I know I've watched a lot of college football and I was not that high on him. And if you had to go from Etienne's college highlights to Bigsby, it's not even close, right? Etienne was an absolute monster there, right? 18 carries, 77 yards. Obviously had the late 26-yard touchdown. But you guys saw when it came to trying to milk that game, right? Because they were only up 3, he was in there. He was the guy Doesn't matter if they're up or they're down late in the game. You're going to have ETN out there, right? For the dump offs or just trying to kill the clock, get the first downs, right? Obviously, I know Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good runner as well, but I think that actually helps ETN. I think those play action fakes are going to get even more. Obviously, the backers come down. When they don't, oh my God, there goes ETN, has the breakaway speed. I think he's going to be lower owned than a lot of pieces in this game. I feel like everybody's going to Ridley. Everyone's going to be going to Evan Ingram and or Kelsey and trying to have a run back with the Mahomes Kelsey stack, bringing back Ridley, right? I think it's going to be ETN that's going to be the fun part of this game. It's going to be the lowish owned of the higher end guys, right? So I think this is a good leverage spot. Hopefully a couple breakaway touchdowns going to help you get ahead of the field and obviously take away a lot because I know Ridley's going to be really high owned.
Yep. And I mean, dude, the receiving game work is going to be a little underscored this week. Remember all those Jahmyr Gibbs write-ups in week 1, how awesome that matchup was, how, oh my God, this is the best, running back target team to target ever. And then suddenly a rookie running back who was expected to be eased in didn't hit that number for you week 1. So everyone's like, oh, fuck it. He's not going to pop up in any of the new numbers this year when you're just running the week 1 spots. But in reality, the Chiefs are a great team to target for running back, catches, targets, all that stuff in general. So I like the path for ETN. He kind of fits my mojo this week of going contrarian because, like you said, he's going to be one of the later guys people pick in those stacks, right? Everyone's going to want the sexier names. The Calvin Ridley is going to be 99% owned in every contest I play. That'll always be fun to see. So I agree, especially if he grabs the touchdown. That would be huge right here. And yeah, too, I was going to say, when you first said at the beginning, Tanks Bigbie, the 7 for 13, those just look like his Auburn yards per carry, right? If you watched him play, I mean, the guy ran two yards at a time. And oh, yeah, sure, he played against behind one of the worst offensive lines against all these great D lines. Well, look at this Jags offensive line. After that week 1 or the injury before the season started, they're also a very bad offensive line as well. So I agree. ETN's kind of clearly the guy right here. The pass game usage was great in week 1, and I expect it to be very good in week 2 as well.
All right. Last thing before we head out and we do our recap here. Stu, please tell me, what the fuck is the NFL schedulers doing this week? Tell me. Monday Night Football outside. You got Carolina and New Orleans. Okay. First, that's not even my big part. That's 1.
Okay.
2, primetime 325 games. Denver, Washington. Jesus Christ. That is a joke. 305. Arizona Giants. San Francisco, LA. And then I'm going to have to watch. Dude, flex out the freaking Cowboys playing Zach Wilson at 325. I'm going to have to. That means I have to flip between Seattle, Detroit, right? I'm going to have to flip between Baltimore, Cincinnati, Vegas, Bills, Jacksonville. Like, what is going on, bro? Like, those are the best games all at the same time. And I'm going to have to be busy at that first part. And it sucks because I'm going to miss the first half. And those are all the games I want to watch, not this horse shit. Giants, Arizona. What is going on, dude?
Well, the worst part too, I just looked, even like the games that aren't like great games, but they're like sneaky good games. Like the Bears Bucks is going to be a sneaky, hilarious game to watch. The Chargers Titans, sneaky, hilarious game to watch. Paul's firing back. Paul, that sounds like the words of somebody that has him on his fantasy team to me. Those seem like the words of a man who was scorned by Kadarius Toney last week. I was not drafting Kadarius Toney as in like the 7th round or however high he was going and all that stuff. But hey,
no, Sky Moore. Sky Moore was 7th. Tony probably pushed the 9-10.
He was getting up there a little bit later, but you're right, Moore. I mean, that's the worst pick.
Yeah, fuck Sky Moore.
Yeah, good luck with that this week. You can drop him at this point. What were we talking about before that? The game schedule. Yeah, no, that does fucking suck. I haven't even looked at it, to be honest. Besides, I thought the Steelers game was a regular slate game, and I found out it was a double primetime game instead with 2 bad teams. Dude, I don't know. Very weird.
Dude, that's just like when they send the fucking shit games overseas to England. It's like, you guys just not want international viewership? Because if I watch this game, I am not watching again and waking up early in my day to watch this shit. And I would never do it if you're going to send me the Panthers and the Texans to play each other in England. It's like, what, dude? Do you want people to watch or you just want people not to watch? It's like, man, I digress. Let's recap and let's get out of here.
Yeah. Well, final thing I'll say real quick. It looks like they saw that Saints-Panthers was the primetime game, and they went, that's so bad. Let's just add another game to it. Like, that's literally what it looks like with the Browns-Steelers being there. It looks like they're just like, fuck it. Let's just add another one. And now we have the mid-off here as well. So that'll be a rough Monday night right there. But for me, yeah, let's pivot to Thursday night right here. My first play, we're going Alexander Mattison under 64.5 rush yards. Combine that with Devonta Smith, 4 receptions, -130 over on BetMGM and DraftKings. And then for my stacks, for my high-end guy of the week, we're going Josh Allen, baby. Bounce back week. And hey, favorite low-end guy, same situation. Kadarius Toney at 4,600. It's going to surprise a lot of people at 0% ownership this week, baby.
Yeah, come and beat us. Hey, if you think that he sucks, Stu's going to have him in there. If you take this out of a take, Stu must play him in the weekly listeners league. Come take his $5. Take his $5 off of his hands and put it in your pocket and be like, dude, Kadarius Toney sucks. Like, then you have him. Then you have him locked in on that. I'll be rolling with Kirk Cousins over 24.5 completions, going along with my boy Travis Etienne and JSN as my cheap guy there. And you guys convinced me. I might be 51% Joe Burrow now. 49% Geno. So we're right on the edge. I don't know, bro. We'll see. If Dallas Goedert goes for 50, Geno. Go Geno. Getting in there. Oh, we have a quick one here. Oh, gosh.
Oh, boy.
Fantasy conundrum. You're going to get it in on the last second. The last thing before we head out, we have just hit an hour mark. 25 of you guys in here. I can't believe you guys still in here for an hour. Real quick, Rashid. Oh, my goodness, God. I can't even talk about Drake London, who gets zeroed, and Shaheed. Stu, what do you want to say here? Is this a 15 team?
Oh, brother. I think you got to play Shaheed. I don't want to. I wouldn't recommend that normally, but London, what? Like, oh, God.
Packer secondary's nice.
I was going to say, they might throw the ball 4 times all game. Like, legitimately. The number 1 corner matchup, arguably, in the league over these last couple years. Drake London. No, I think you got to go Shaheed. Oh, boy. That is so.
Never thought I'd say that either.
Oh, boy. Yeah, maybe we're overreacting. Maybe we're part of the problem. But, hey, you caught us at the hour mark, and that's a tough call. Do you have anyone on the waiver wire? Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess
we'll find Kadarius Toney, throw him in there, and then you can bully Stu if he's wrong. Just throw that in there. But all right, guys, we got to get out of here. We're at that hour mark. Stu, you got anything for the people before we head out?
No, make sure to follow on Twitter if you're following over there. TJ Hawkinson, I posted at -120 a couple hours before the rest of the world posted it, and now it is -180. Same situation with Josh Allen. Posted it on Friday. The rest of the world posted it on Sunday. They got the bad number. That's how it goes. Some people make popular plays, and some people make the plays popular. So if you want to follow that stuff, make sure you're following over on Twitter.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. We got, obviously, the show Friday. I already posted YouTube play of the day for MLB. You know we're grinding, right? I've been sitting on this computer. I got my wheat thin on the side. I got my water bottle here. That's how you know I've been locked in on this computer. I even went for a little run, right? We did that. We got that shit in there. But I've been grinding on this computer because we got to make sure we get that MLB stuff out as well. Full day slate. Have it over there. Make sure you go watch it. I am throwing to Gabe Davis. Throw that hammer on Gabe Davis. It's not even close. It's not even close. He's going for 200 this week. This is one of his 2 weeks where he goes for 200. This is Gabe Davis week. Lock him in, baby. Let's go. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you Friday. I'll make sure I have that link up for the DK tournament. Hopefully you guys can join us and take some of our money. If you think Kadarius Toney is a shit play, come take Stu's money out of his pocket. That's how you know we're ready for you. So have a good one, guys. Best of luck, and we'll see you on Friday.